Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Once again, Joe Nice, Live and Direct, January 6, 2021. January the 6th, 2021, January 6, 2021. Here again, another brief video. Going to go about 10, maybe 15 minutes. The Georgia elections are done and finished. It looks as if both Democrats have won their elections in Georgia. Raphael Warnock has defeated Kelly Loeffler, and Jon Ossoff has defeated David Perdue in the Georgia senatorial election. So now we have a 50-50 split between the actually, let me be a little bit more correct. Let me be correct when I say this. We have 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, and 2 independents. That is how the Senate is categorized now. We have 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, and 2 independents. The 2 independents being Angus King. He is a senator from Maine. He typically caucuses with the Democrats. And the other independent senator is Senator Bernard Sanders. You know him as Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont. He is also an independent. So you have 2 independents that typically caucus with the Democrats. You have 40 now with the appointments of Warnock and Ossoff winning their elections. You now have 46. Let me try it again. You now have 48 Democrats and 50 Republicans. Angus King and Bernie Sanders typically caucus with the Democrats, which means that will make 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. When the new administration gets inaugurated, the Democrats will control the Senate, and most likely Chuck Schumer will be voted in as Senate Majority Leader. There are no excuses now for the Democrats to not pass legislation that's going to secure the rights and freedoms of Americans across the United States. There's no excuses for the Democrats in the House and Senate and the White House to not pass legislation that's going to truly benefit everybody in the United States. This includes Medicare for all. This includes a demilitarized Green New Deal. This includes criminal justice reform. This includes nationwide legalization of marijuana. This includes a COVID-19 relief package with a universal basic income and $2,000 a month survival checks, retroactive to the expiration of the CARES Act, which ended July 31st, 2020. This includes defunding the police. There's no excuses. No excuses. Then again, the last time the United States had a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democrat in the White House, we ended up with a Republican health care plan. That happened. Additionally, we had a filibuster-proof Senate on the Democratic side for 2 years with 60 Democrats. And we still ended up with a Republican health care plan. So I'm not necessarily confident in anything that the Democrats are now going to pass, but we will see. There's going to be no more excuses anymore. It's not going to be any more, oh, well, you know what, we tried to do this, but, Mitch McConnell was in the way, and, Mitch McConnell just blocks everything, and we can't do anything because Mitch McConnell blocks everything, and he's in the way. There's no more of that. There's no more of that. None. There's no more of that. You can't say, oh, well, you know what? The Republicans were in the way. We couldn't pass legislation that we really wanted to push because the Republicans were blocking me. There's no more of that. There's no more excuses. No more excuses. No more excuses. So for the next couple of years, Democrats are truly in control. They're completely in control. I don't want to hear anything from anybody in the Democratic leadership House, Senate, White House saying, oh, you know what, we can't pass Medicare for all. We can't push some of these policies that we really want to push because you know what? The Republicans are away. They're not there. They're not there. Something else that this now Democratic leadership in Washington, D.C. can push is for student loan forgiveness. And that's something Joe Biden can do without having to deal with Congress. He doesn't have to talk to anybody else in Congress. He could talk to his White House legal counsel. They can draft up something. Done. How about passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act? Democrats can certainly do that. That's easy. How about repealing the Patriot Act? Now that might be a little bit difficult considering that Joe Biden essentially is the author of the Patriot Act. Somewhat indirectly. Joe Biden in 1995 wrote the Counterterrorism Act of 1995, which essentially said, hey, you know what? We're going to surveil everybody. September 11th, it never got put to Congress, but he wrote it. September 11th happened. George Bush said, hey, we need surveillance. Let's remix that Patriot. Let's remix the Counterterrorism Act and call it the Patriot Act. And let's surveil everybody. He could repeal that. How about banning fracking? There's a lot he can do. There's a lot this administration needs to do. There's a lot that the progressives need to do because there's a growing number of progressives in the House of Representatives. They were supposed to force the vote for Medicare for all to get a floor vote in the House of Representatives. If they didn't do it, so I have little trust in the Democratic Party right now. Little. And it's dwindling fast. So quite honestly, I'm not sure I should give them the benefit of the doubt on anything. So this first 100 days of their administration, they better do some real landmark legislation. They better really push some stuff. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to see a whole lot of Republicans saying, hey, well, you know what? We can be a party of the working people. We can be a party of the working people. We can make sure that you have a job that's going to pay you well. And we'll do something about immigration. We'll take care of that. Start electing us. If the Democrats don't pass some landmark legislation in this first 100 days of their administration, in 2022, they're going to get wiped out in the House and the Senate. And then in 2024, when a more competent version of Trump steps up to the plate, or if Trump realizes the mistakes he made during this previous 4 years and comes back a little bit more politically savvy, it's a wrap for America. It's a wrap. Miles ahead saying, well, the same way Dave Chappelle urged America to give Trump a chance and hope for the best, I encourage you to do the same. Miles, I love you, brother, but I'm not sure I can do that right now. Look at how the Democrats have screwed us in the past. I'll say it again. The last time we had a completely all three chambers of government, all three branches of government, House, Senate, and President. Look at what happened. We went from 2 wars to 7. We opened the Arctic to drilling twice. Well, Shell Oil was dropping $500 million drill bits into the Arctic. We passed a Republican health care plan that still left millions uninsured. And at that time, we had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, which means we had 60 Democrats in the Senate. And we couldn't even get a public option for health care. We'll see. Man, Max Eulis. Oh, Canada. Checking in. What's good, brother? Saying this is the Dems' last chance. You're damn right. This is it for the Democrats. This is it. They don't have 2 years to win back the trust of the American people. They got about 100 days. maybe 150 if there's some snow days, because you never know. The weather in Washington, D.C. can be a bit inclement. But they got about 100 days to really push some stuff. They don't get some stuff done in this 100 days, and if the progressives in the House don't mobilize, watch what happens in 2022. It's going to be a Republican backlash. And then watch what happens in 2024 when the Democrats try to push Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee for the United States, and she gets steamrolled by a somewhat competent Republican. And it could be Josh Hawley, it could be Tom Cotton, who are two current Republican senators right now. It could very well be Donald Trump in 4 years. What's stopping him? He's what, 72 now? Puts him at 76. Joe Biden's what, 78? Okay. Something else I want to bring up is, everyone talks about, hey, Raphael Warnock, he's the first black senator from Georgia. I'm beyond tired of people saying, hey, you know what? He's the first black this, he's the first black that. I'm done with that. I'm bored with that. That's tired. It's tired. I'm considerably more interested in what policies and what you actually do that's going to secure the rights and freedoms of people. I'm not interested in, oh, hey, he's the first black this, he's the first black that. Doesn't make a difference to me. We had the first black president, and that first black president and his policies led us to getting Trump. In that first black president's administration, we had the first black and second black attorneys general that did nothing for criminal justice reform and did nothing to make sure, nothing to launch a Department of Justice investigation to see why black people were being shot and killed in the streets by white police officers. We had the first black Department of Homeland Security in Jay Johnson, who, okay, what did he do for Homeland Security? Nothing. We're now going to have the first black Department of the Defense in the Biden administration. What's he going to do? Just continue the funnel of money going to the Department of Defense and the Pentagon. So when people say, "Hey, you know what? The first black this, the first black that," I'm cool. I'm all right. Doesn't make that bit of a difference to me. I'm considerably more interested in policy and action rather than identity politics. Max Yule is saying, do you think Romney will run again? Probably not. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. But you know what? You know what, Max? You know what? Damn, that is a good question, though, bro. Because there's still going to be, Donald Trump is still the most popular person in the Republican Party. And I don't think that popularity is going to diminish, dissipate, or disappear once he leaves the White House in about 2.5 or 3 weeks. So he's still going to have a lot of juice. But Mitt Romney also has a lot of juice in the Republican Party. And I certainly think that there's going to be a group, he's part of that sort of never Trumper, Lincoln Project sort of crowd. That's like, you know what? I don't like Donald Trump simply because he's Donald Trump and he's too far right for establishment Republicans. Mitt Romney is an establishment Republican. And I think there is a group of people in the body politic that like that sort of politics, that sort of establishment Republican politics. And quite honestly, there is not much political difference between the neoliberalism of the Democrats and the Romney-style politics of the Republicans. And it's quite possible that if the Democratic Party becomes progressive, if that's even possible within the Democratic Party, there might be some establishment Democrats and neoliberals in the body politic that might be like, you know what? The Democratic Party is too far left for me. Mitt Romney's a pretty good option. I'm going to go with him this next election. So that's entirely possible. But again, I'm not overly interested in, oh, he's the first black senator, or he's the first black this or the first black that. You know, history is supposed to be the progress of freedom. I'm going to say it again. History is supposed to be the progress of freedom. And what does that progress look like? That progress is not necessarily a black face in a high place, especially when that black face in a high place continues to uphold white supremacy. And we've seen that on more than a few instances. And I don't see anything that's going to change that in the future. What I do think needs to happen is there needs to be a cultural autopsy, and you need a party that works for the American people. And what we've seen from, gosh, I'm 44 years old, and I barely remember the Reagan administration, but I remember Clinton, and he was a Democrat, and he had a whole lot of black people in his administration, and they destroyed this country. Destroyed it. Bush went along for the ride, and then Obama pushed this country off the cliff. And then Donald Trump was at the bottom of the cliff trying to pick up the pieces. Steve Madrid saying, what's up, brother? Saying we need a party that works for the people. Yep, agreed. Anthony Velez saying identity politics is a shield for the oppressors. Absolutely. 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 Why do you think there's a big reason why during Obama's first term, why it was difficult for black people to criticize Obama? Because, hey, he was the first black president. And wait a minute, we can't criticize the first black president, especially when the first black president doesn't do anything for black people or anybody else who's of color. How can we criticize him? Wait a minute, I've got the audacity of hope on my bookshelf. I can't criticize Obama. I've got Dreams of My Father on my bookshelf. There's no way I can say anything bad about Obama. But he's letting your kids get shot in the street by white police officers. He's letting black people in Flint, Michigan remain poisoned with lead in the water and didn't give them health care. Anthony Velez saying both parties are bought and sold. Yep. Steve Madrid saying postal banking. Yep, I agree. And postal banking that's been there's legislation, I think, that Kirsten Gillibrand presented a few years ago about postal banking. Postal banking would be excellent. You kidding me? Postal banking would be brilliant. Brilliant. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The world's largest brick and mortar retail network. It is not Amazon. It is not Alibaba. It is not Walmart. It is not Target. It is not Taobao. It is the United States Postal Service. You can find a United States post office anywhere in this country. Anywhere. Anywhere. Could you imagine if you had low-cost financial instruments in every post office? Do you know what that would do to the banking industry? Especially the big banks like a Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or in Canada, some of those Canadian banks like BMO, TD. Oh gosh, let me think. Scotiabank, RBC. Could you imagine if you had postal banking at every Canada Post location in Canada? especially when there are certain parts of Canada that don't have access to a bank. So that's called a banking desert. Could you imagine if you could just go inside of a Save On Foods where there's a little Canada Post kiosk and say, hey, you know what? Let me get a money order or let me get a cashier's check. Okay, yep, 2 loonies. Oh, here's a toonie for it. Yep. Instead of paying $12 for it at a bank. Student loan forgiveness. Yep. That can be done by executive order, Steve. Can be done by executive order, and it's easy. He gets one of it. All Biden has to do is get one of his White House, get a couple of dudes from White House counsel to write up the executive order. 1 or 2 pages. He goes down the street to Staples or Office Depot, picks up a couple of pens. Done. Student loan forgiveness. You want a true stimulus? Try that. Try that. Because I'll tell you what, I would be a whole lot less stressed out if I didn't have to worry about my student loans. They're on hold right now because everybody's student loans are on hold, but eventually I got to start paying them back. And I've got no job and 2 master's degrees. And Wake Forest tuition is not cheap. And thankfully I got a 50% scholarship, but it still wasn't cheap. Max Eulis, do you think Dems will actually push money out of politics? No, I don't think they will. Because the money in politics is how these politicians enrich themselves. They're beholden to their donors. And as a result, there's no real incentive to push money out of politics. I truly don't think that any of these politicians will want campaign finance reform. So and as a result, because of corporate influence in politics, it's difficult to push money out of politics. And because we have a 2-party system where it's, hey, you either get this or that, and there's no real viable option for a third party at this point. Sure, you have the Green Party, which I voted for, but as much as Howie Hawkins's policies are excellent, he's an uninspiring and uncharismatic person that doesn't necessarily rally the troops or garner interest and excitement. So it's tough to even get more people voting Green. Earlier in this conversation, I mentioned an independent senator from Maine named Angus King. Maine has a voting system called ranked choice voting. If you want to get money out of politics, ranked choice voting is the way to do it. Because with ranked choice voting, you're no longer beholden to a particular political party. At that point, the political candidate, has to have policy positions that people will actually want to vote for. Ranked choice voting would almost dry up the money pit that is politics in the United States. Would dry it up instantly. Because you gotta have to go out and actually campaign and speak to people where they are. And say, hey, you know what? Yeah, vote for me. Because if you vote for me, I will do this for you. Politics is an exchange. Everybody knows that. It's a quid pro quo. Hey, I'm a representative of the people. And if you allow me to represent you all, I will do this for you. Not, oh, hey, I'm a Democrat and vote for me because it says Democrat on your voter's card. Nope. Mm-mm. If you institute ranked choice voting, you will destroy the money pit that is politics. And then you'll actually get down to proper governance and proper politics, where you talk to people that you disagree with, you build political coalitions, you mainstream that consensus, and you execute the consensus with policy. That is politics. And if you have ranked choice voting, you will not only have to speak to the people that are voting for your political platform, but you'll also have to compromise with people that might have chosen you as their second or third choice. That way you get a more representative government and you get a more representative electorate rather than just, oh, it's either Democrat or Republican. And there's a whole lot of people right now that feel politically homeless and destitute because they're definitely not Republicans and the Democrats have betrayed them over and over and over and over and over again. Steve Madrid saying we write the Constitution. Yep, I agree. Start to finish, remix it, rewrite it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Black people didn't get anything until the 13th Amendment, and there are 27 amendments in the Constitution. And 2 of those amendments were repealing 2 previous amendments. 4 of the amendments secure voting rights. 15th, 19th, 23rd, and 26th. Max Yulia is saying, didn't Biden campaign on doing just that, or am I wrong about that? Campaign on what exactly, Max? I'm not sure what you're asking me. Did he campaign on campaign finance reform? I doubt it. I doubt it. Joe Biden is bought and sold and paid for, just like nearly every other politician in Washington, D.C. I'm not sure why he would want campaign finance reform. When last year he gave, or not last year, the year before that, in 2019, he gave a big speech to Wall Street saying, hey, you know what? Nothing's going to fundamentally change if I become president. Anthony Velez saying Democrats did not destroy Bernie and third parties only to enact their agendas. Billionaires and donors wanted reliable puppets for their agenda. I agree. They got it with the Biden administration. I agree. I'm skeptical about Senate control. I agree with that too. I thoroughly agree with that. I thoroughly agree with that. When you talk about billionaires and donors wanting reliable puppets for their agenda, 4 years ago, a little more than 4 years ago, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, a gentleman by the name of Lloyd Blankfein, said, hey, look, if Bernie Sanders becomes the Democratic nominee for the president of the United States, we, Wall Street, will put our support behind Donald Trump. So when you talk about puppets for their agenda, when you speak about billionaires and donors, and Lloyd Blankfein is a billionaire and a donor to the Democratic Party, they need reliable puppets for their agenda. And reliable puppets for their agenda is the continued looting of the United States Treasury for Wall Street enrichment. How else do you think the CARES and HEROES Act got passed? How else do you think that $4.7 trillion went to the richest 500 or 1,000 people and the biggest banks in the United States, which created the largest upward of wealth transfer of wealth in American history? How else do you think that the stock market continues to thrive while millions of people are still hungry, homeless, and unemployed and uninsured? Brother Anthony saying, I'm skeptical about Senate control. I am also. Max saying, I believe I heard him mention that, but it was probably just bait for progressives. Exactly. And when I was in Washington, D.C. over this past weekend, I had an opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Nick Brana. Nick Brana is the head of a new organization called Movement for a People's Party. Movement for a People's Party, where they're trying to make a political party that is about workers and the people. There's a wonderful group of people who are part of the advisory board: Jimmy Dore, Cornel West, Ryan Knight, I think Marianne Williamson, Justin Jackson, who's a running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, is on the board, is on the advisory board. There's a wonderful group of people that are on that board, and Nick Brana, he's a good guy. I had a really nice chat with him on Saturday. So who knows? Maybe in 2022 or in 2024, the movement, the People's Party, will actually get a bit more viability in the United States. Maybe the Green Party can work alongside the People's Party. Who knows? Who knows? But there needs to be more than just two political parties in the United States. By a lot. By a lot. In yesterday's edition of the Joe and Cat Chats, I mentioned that the Netherlands is having their parliamentary elections. And there are 13 political parties in the Netherlands. 13. 13 official parties. And another 12 to 15 that would like to become official, that might have a say in who gets in. Which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Rylan White saying, even with the number of parties that Canada has, it is still basically two. Yep, I agree. Realistically, there's 5 political parties in Canada. You have the Conservatives, you have the Liberals, you have NDP, you have Green, and oh gosh, there's one more political party. I can't remember it. Green, NDP, Liberal, Conservative. There's one more. I can't remember it. But yeah, basically people vote either Liberal, Trudeau, or Conservative. And I forget the new guy who's the new guy. The guy before him was Andrew Scheer, but he quit. Max saying, do you think Trump has the power to fracture the Republicans into two parties? Max, he's already done that, somewhat unofficially. Because there's a group of Republicans that are just hardcore Trumpers. Then you have a group of people who despise Donald Trump. They all realistically caucus together as Republicans, but ideologically speaking, the far right wing of the Republican Party, those are the people who are marching in Washington, D.C. right now saying, yo, stop the steal, stop the steal. But establishment Republicans, they're not really messing with stop the steal and worried about voting fraud or election fraud. They're just like, yo, look, I'm a Republican. And I don't care about anybody but my donors. And anything the Democrats try to do, I'm going to block it. So when Trump, a little more than 4 years ago, said, yeah, I'm going to drain the swamp, he didn't completely drain the swamp, but he exposed a lot of the swamp monsters that are in the swamp. And a lot of those swamp monsters were not necessarily Republicans. Many of them were Democrats, and he exposed them too. But who he also exposed is the mainstream media and how corrupt they are on both sides. Because quite honestly, there's really not much difference between Sean Hannity and Rachel Maddow. There's not much difference between Laura Ingraham and Chris Hayes. There really isn't. Ryland saying Bernie caucuses with the Democrats, and I would say out of necessity, really. I agree. And Angus King also caucuses with the Democrats, but Bernie is the one that's gone across the aisle a lot and said, hey, you know what? I'm not with the Democrats on this one. Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley, a Republican senator, is the reason why millions of Americans are getting $600 checks now, as opposed to the $0 that the Republicans were looking to put out there to everybody. Let me go back to this Max here. Max saying, I mean, really, if they split the party, that leaves a window of hope for progressives to break away from the Democrats. I agree. But what should have happened? What should have happened with the progressives over this past weekend is exactly what should have happened about a decade ago with the Freedom Caucus and John Boehner. The Freedom Caucus was a group of Republicans that were like, hey, you know what? We're not doing anything for John Boehner. We're going to make John Boehner's life a living hell unless he does what we ask him to do. And those people in the Freedom Caucus were such pains in the asses to John Boehner. John Boehner was like, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm leaving this. I'm stepping down. I don't want to be Speaker of the House anymore. And in fact, the hell with it. I'm leaving Washington, D.C. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of living inside of Interstate 495 in the Capitol Beltway. I don't want any of this anymore. The progressives could have easily done that with Nancy Pelosi. Easily. And the progressives could have asked for significantly more than just a floor vote for Medicare for all. They could have been like, look, we want a floor vote for Medicare for all. We want HR 40 because Black people need reparations. We want a demilitarized Green New Deal. And we want President Biden on his first day in office, first day after the inauguration, to eliminate student loans completely. They could have asked for all of that. And they couldn't even withhold their vote for a floor vote for Medicare for all in the House, for the floor vote in the House of Representatives. Steve's saying Trump exposed the mainstream media. Yep. I agree. He completely exposed the mainstream media. I've gone about 20 minutes longer than I planned on going today, but it's okay. We got a lot of participants here today, and I like interacting with brothers and sisters. We haven't seen any ladies in here, but you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what it is. So I urge each of you to continue to stay vigilant and stay safe and stay healthy. I am not only worried, but concerned about the future of the United States government, especially a democratically controlled government in the House and the Senate and the White House. Completely worried about that. A couple more things I want to talk about before I get out of here. I got some stuff I got to take care of today. On my Instagram, you saw me post up about Proposition 22. Proposition 22 was passed in California. And essentially all these grocery deliverers, yikes. They're all independent contractors. They've all been fired, and none of them are getting health care. None of them have any sort of benefits at all. And it's crazy that that's happening. None of them. And this Proposition 22 is going to be impossible to repeal because of the California state legislature. It needs a 7/8 majority to overturn. 7/8 majority. That's unheard of in politics. Anywhere. Consider this. To ratify or at least propose a change to the Constitution, you need a 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate. For Proposition 22 in California, you need 7/8 majority. That's 87.5% of the legislature needs to say, yeah, we're going to overturn this. Good luck trying to get 87% of anything to agree on something. If you had 100 people at a festival saying, yo, look, what's your favorite food? 87 of them are probably not going to say pizza. You're going to have 20 people that might say, hey, you know what, spaghetti. You know what, brownies. You're going to have a few people that are going to say, yo, I like kale. You're not going to get 87 out of 100 to agree on their favorite food. What makes you think 87% of a California legislature is going to agree to repeal Proposition 22? Some of the actors involved in this were absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. One of the people that was involved in this is a gentleman named Tony West. He's Uber's chief legal analyst. Tony West's sister-in-law is Kamala Harris. Lyft's chief policy officer is a gentleman named Anthony Fox. One of Anthony Fox's previous roles was Obama's transportation secretary. Again, two more black faces in high places that are completely destroying workers' rights. And I'm sure Uber and Lyft probably had wonderful campaigns saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and have to hire have our first black policy analyst, chief policy analyst. And we're going to have another black face in a high place in this corporation. They're out there to screw working people. I think it's time to screw them back. Stop using DoorDash. Stop using Postmates. Stop using Uber Eats. Stop using Uber. Stop using Lyft. Stop shopping at these grocery stores in California that have essentially fired these delivery workers and aren't paying them fair wages and aren't offering them any sort of health benefits. Stop using them. Boycott them. Boycott them. Stop shopping at a local Safeway or Vons for a month and see what happens. Stop using Postmates for 2.5 weeks and see what happens. Steve's saying, why are you concerned with politics? Because politics governs our lives. That's why I'm concerned with it. And I'm an American just like you, and I'm a human being just like you. We deserve to have our rights or freedoms secured by the representatives who we elect. And if the rights and freedoms that we are promised based upon the Constitution are not adhered to, and our representatives don't do what we ask them to do, that's a problem. That's why I'm concerned. I'm not saying we all need to go out and get degrees in political science. No. What I am saying is we need to be at least aware of what's going on and have an idea of what's happening politically. I'm not saying we should all go ahead and buy cable, get cable, and start watching C-SPAN incessantly. No. At the same time, we should know who our elected officials are, who we should know what they're about. And we should, and if they don't do what they campaign on doing, we should continue to hold their feet to the fire. And if they refuse, or if even worse, if they become recalcitrant, then we find other political candidates that represent the wills and aims of the people. It's that simple. You can tell I had a halfway decent night of sleep if I'm using words like recalcitrant in a sentence. Max saying nearly 87. Yep. Again, good luck getting 87 out of 100 people to agree on their favorite food. Nice try. I mean, man, John D., legend, John Deek saying the reason things are the way they are right now is because of the fact that people weren't concerned with politics. Real talk. Agreed. People were concerned with celebrity status, which is essentially what the squad is now. There are a bunch of celebrities running around Washington, D.C. They'll probably go ahead and have lunch at Ben's Chili Bowl later today. Maybe have a wonderful French dinner at Tiku. It's a French restaurant. Or they might get Nando's. There's a couple of different Nando's locations. Go home. Do it all over again in Capitol Hill tomorrow. AOC might have another cooking show on Twitch. She might say something to her 10 million Twitter fans. Or followers, I should say. And Raphael Warnock, who's now been elected to the Senate, probably has a decent Instagram following, but he's a reverend, so he's a man of the cloth, so you know he's got a congregation. and he's from down south. I live in the South. And people in the South like their churches. And they like their pastors. We'll see. Ryland saying big ups. Joe, good experiment today. Thank you. Steve Madrid saying, if you surveyed everyone at a feast, 87% would say curry. Brother, I don't know about that, man. You know, I love a good curry, too. You know I love a good curry. There's 250 million Indians on strike right now. I guarantee you, if you said, yo, look, we're going to go to India, I guarantee you 87% of India's population, which would work out to, gosh, what? I don't know, about 1 billion people. I guarantee you 1 billion people aren't saying their favorite food is curry. So how are you going to get 87% of a California legislature to overturn Prop 22? Good luck with that. So again, Democrats, again, I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a citizen of the United States, just like a lot of other people who are in the United States. There's a whole lot of non-citizens that are also concerned about the way this country is going right now. And we want to make sure that our government can address the biological, social, economic, and financial crises that have converged right now. I have no faith that the Democratic Party is going to do right by the people. We will see what happens. We will see what happens. And again, Democrats have about 100 days to try to do something big for the American people, in addition to passing a new stimulus bill that actually helps people and businesses, in addition to getting a vaccine distribution plan so everybody can get vaccinated. Steve Madrid saying, if you surveyed a New Mexico festival, 100% would say Chile. Oh, you know what? You're damn right. Yeah. Yeah, the 505 loves their green chili. No question. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right about that, Steve. Well said. Well done. Well said. Well done. But you know what? But then again, in New Mexico, if you said, hey, what's your favorite New Mexican restaurant? Are you going to go with El Patillo or Sadie's? You know I'm a Sadie's man, but El Patillo, all right. And you know I love New Mexico. Oh, I miss New Mexico. Bad. I love New Mexico. The 505 is one of my favorite places in the world. But yeah, you went to a New Mexico festival and said, yeah, what's your favorite food? Green chile. That's a done deal. You're right about that. 87% might be the low number. It might be like 96%. You might have a couple of people that might be allergic, but yeah, for the most part, if you're New Mexican, you're on your green chile. No doubt about it. And I haven't had a good sopapilla in years. Whew, good stuff. Steve would say, actually, 49% would say red, 51% green. Yeah, but it's still all chile. Doesn't make a difference. At that point, it's just minutia and picking nits. It's not like, well, I like pizza, I like brownies, I like steak, I like chicken. Nah, I like lobster. Totally different shit. John, what can Democrats and people in general do to get a better idea of local and state politics? Do you have resources that you can recommend to us? What can people do to get a better idea of local and state politics? What you can do is go to your local websites and figure out who your politicians are. That's a first start. You can figure out, okay, hey, you know what? I live in Fairfax, Virginia, or I live in Prince William County, Virginia, or I live in Virginia. Okay, who is my local representative? Who represents me in the House? Who represents my interest in the Senate? Who's the governor of Virginia? What are his or her policies? Who's on my school board? Who's the mayor of my town? A lot of this is just internet research. It's the best answer I can give you. And as you figure out who your representatives are in local politics, locally, you then think, okay, you know what? Okay, regionally, who am I interested in? What's happening? And then you figure out who's doing what nationally. But if you start locally, and just as easy as, okay, yeah, school board, police commissioner, or sheriff, if you live in a town, a mayor, and find out what his or her policies are. And in many instances, you can look that stuff up on the internet. They'll have a bio of your mayor. Like, oh yeah, hey, the mayor believes in this and this and this and this and this, or this or this or this school board chooses to do this, or this senator is a Republican and a former venture capitalist on Wall Street. They'll put that stuff in their bios. They're public servants, and by their very nature of their public servitude, they're supposed to be transparent. They're not supposed to hide that sort of stuff from you. They're supposed to voting. Voting is a public vetting process. Voting is a public vetting process. It is not that dissimilar than a job interview. It just happens to be public. So if you have a political candidate that says, hey, look, I want to be mayor of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Okay. Why should we vote for you? Why should you be mayor? Oh, well, I can do this, 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 and this, and I promise to do these things for you. You have another candidate. Okay, well, why should we vote for you as mayor? Well, I want to be mayor. Why should we vote for you? Why should we choose you? Okay, well, I have a PhD in political science from the University of North Carolina. I ran a couple of different campaigns, and I will make sure that all the trash gets cleaned up, and we'll do something about homelessness. I asked that question for people watching. I think a lot of anger gets misdirected to the wrong people. If people want real change, they need to get more involved in what is going on around them and the state they live in. John, brilliant. I agree. Thoroughly. 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 Gandhi once said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. And if we want the kind of change that we wish to see in the world, and I think when Gandhi said that quote maybe 100 years ago, he wasn't necessarily speaking on a planetary level. He probably a bit more of a community level. In your world, your community, your environment, where you are around you, if you want things to change around you, you have to change yourself. I think that is what he meant by world, not earth, but your world. Be the change you wish to see in the world. For some people, their world is their apartment. For some people, their world is their house. For some people, their world is their block. For some people, their world is their neighborhood. For some people, their world is a 50-acre farm. For some people, their world is the west side of Baltimore. For some people, their world is a city. It's all a matter of perspective at that point, John. But your point's well taken. The mayor of my city did a rap song with Snoop Dogg. I assume that is Michael Hancock in Denver, Colorado. Okay. I've said all I want to say for today. I want to thank each of you for participating and watching. I'm going to continue to grow my YouTube profile, youtube.com/JoeNiceDJ. Starting to get some more followers on there. I've had that channel for a long time now, but I've never really done anything with it, but I'm going to start to do more with it now. Eventually, I'll come back to music. One of these days, we'll figure it all out, and hopefully I'll be slicing and dicing as usual and power mixing, as I always have been. But right now, you know, it's more important stuff than flinging down dub plates and traveling around the world. And right now, this is a bit more important than all the other stuff I was doing previously. Don't get me wrong, I miss playing music, but if I don't speak up about the bullshit that's happening around the world right now and around the United States, none of us are going to have anywhere to play music to or in, and none of us are going to have people to play music for. I'm just one person. I just happen to have put my energy towards this right now. And it is my aim and my desire and my hope and my wish that other artists, not just in dubstep, but anywhere, continue or begin to become more socially and politically active, if that is what you so choose to do. Because the more people we have speaking up, speaking out, showing up and showing out, that is that change that John talked about. That's how we get change. To end it on a musical note, Bob Marley, probably about, probably pushing close to 45 to 50 years ago, off the Exodus album, said Exodus, movement of the people. And that's what we need right now. We need a movement of the people. And we need more people. We need more people. We need Albuquerque, New Mexico. We need Denver, Colorado. We need Fairfax, Virginia. We need Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We need Toronto. We need Vancouver. We need Baltimore, Maryland. We need Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We need Sarajevo, Bosnia, London, England, Ghent, Belgium, Ljubljana, Slovenia, Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Hanoi, Vietnam, Copenhagen, Denmark, Gothenburg, Sweden, Vienna, Austria, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Maui. That movement of the people. Yes, it must start locally, but it has to be nationally done. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, we must continue to internationalize the struggle. We must continue to internationalize the fights of humanity, the fights for humanity, freedom, equality, and survival. Thank you, everyone. I gotta go. Peace.